Wonderful. Welcome, everyone, to a webinar on teaching oncology yoga. This webinar is designed for those individuals that are interested in teaching oncology yoga. So taking their oncology or their yoga profession to the next level and creating it. So we're going to do a little bit of various different things today. And I'm going to have Tari do a quick introduction of herself and then start on the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you, Josie. I'm Tari Prinster. I'm the founder of Yoga4Cancer. And I first off want to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us. I'm excited to explain to you the what, how, and why. Why, first of all, we have had these training programs, why I created these training programs 20 years ago now it's been. And during that time, trained nearly, if not over, 3,000 yoga teachers, yoga therapists, and healthcare professionals around the world. And they are serving thousands and thousands of cancer patients and survivors all around the world. And I am very proud of that. And I'm excited to explain to you what it is, where we do it, how we do it, and how bringing safe, effective yoga to cancer patients and survivors is so important. I would like to start with giving you a little bit of an outline of what we will cover here today. I'm going to start with oncology yoga. What is it? Why do we need it? And how a little bit of how it is done. That will come in a short demonstration because the training programs are all about that. That's where you learn how to complement your already existing yoga practice with the principles of oncology yoga. And but before we do that, I really need to start a little bit with the world of oncology yoga and the world of cancer in general. And then we will go to reviewing the upcoming programs and courses. But let's start with that. What is cancer in our world today? So, Joseph, you flip on the next slide there. I'll show you some of the surprising facts that you might not know about cancer in our world today. But this is the important place for us to start in order to understand what oncology yoga really is. It may be news to you, but it's probably this data has changed slightly since we made this slide because this was in 2022. But it's a little startling to understand that there are new cases worldwide, 20 million of cancer patients and survivors, cancer patients who will soon be survivors. That's a big number. Of
Every
that
year.
number, every year, yes. Thank you, Josie. Yeah. So that's a big number every year. I think we could safely say it's not going away. 40% of the world's population will have a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. That's also a very big number. And I like to say that this last data point is one that is most important and also perhaps surprising to a lot of people. 68% of those 20 million will survive and go on to resume a normal life and perhaps die of some other disorder, but not their first cancer. So I think that gives us hope as to why we need oncology yoga in our world. The other surprising fact to some of you might be that cancer is not the hard part. The hard part of a diagnosis for all those 20 million every year are the side effects from normal cancer treatments. Short-term and long-term side effects that impact their daily life. Side effects which I'm sure everyone has heard about. The nausea and the hair loss. That is directly related to the cancer treatments, yes. But those pass quite quickly. And a survivor can go on to have other things that affect their life, side effects that are with them the rest of their life, like bone loss. One of the most untalked about consequences of cancer treatment. Neuropathy, lymphedema. These might be terms that you are not familiar with, but they are what can last and often do a whole lifetime as a side effect from cancer. And of course, we know about anxiety. And that is certainly to be addressed by a yoga practice. But everything else in this list, and also the long list, is a side effect that we can address by cancer, by yoga. And that's what we're going to talk about. How to use yoga to manage those side effects that are so vital to daily function. There are reasons why that. One of the reasons is that some of these side effects, such as lymphedema and neuropathy, reduce drastically daily functioning, which then does not allow the survivor to return to their normal daily habits or necessary things that they need to do, like going back to work. And the impacts of these treatments can also be on the treatments themselves. Often, the side effect is so debilitating that treatments need to be stopped. That is not a good thing to have happen. Increasingly, too, there are side effects. There are treatments that affect ongoing comorbidities, such as diabetes, heart disease, and many other things. I always like to use the term, cancer diagnosis does not make your heart disease or your arthritis go away. You still have those things to deal with, along with the side effects of cancer treatment. And also, side effects can lead to increased mortality rates, largely in part because of having to forego treatments, but the side effects of themselves increase some of these other comorbidities that can also increase the mortality rate and risk of a cancer diagnosis. So what do we do about all this? Well, so has been that some leaders in cancer research have only, well, I would say recently, in the last 10 years, Josie, or less.
10 years
the
ago,
lead
the first recommendation came out for survivors.
Yeah, these organizations made concrete recommendations of what cancer patients undergoing treatment and what cancer survivors the rest of their life should do. And it boils down to some very simple things. 75 minutes of a vigorous, active activity, or 150 minutes of moderate activity in a week. This is, in other words, that's saying exercise. Don't go home and curl up on the couch. Exercise is the most highly recommended thing to do to take care of yourself, thing to do to prevent a recurrence. It builds muscle strength, and it also gives a patient and certainly a survivor something they can do for themselves. It makes them the agent of their both recovery and also their mortality and how well they live, their whole lifestyle quality. So we're grateful to these leaders that they have come up with these recommendations. And we have incorporated all of their recommendations into our training programs. Um, so let's go on to, what am I supposed to do from here, Josie? Is this where I give my demonstration? Oh, no,
No,
no, I reveal the most alarming fact about these recommendations. You can sadly see it on the screen, but survivors don't adhere to these recommendations. And this is wherein Yoga for Cancer comes in, and Oncology Yoga has become the platform upon which they can follow these guidelines to enhance their recovery and to feel whole and functional again. So I'm going to give just a very, very short, brief demonstration of something that we use as part of our training program. To do that, I'm going to just slip away into my chair back here and hope that you all can likewise find a chair to sit in. And I'm going to do, and you can see I am sitting in a chair with the back, but look how far away from the back I am. I am not leaning up against the back of my chair. Really important fact to do. And this is something that we do with our students at whatever stage of their cancer, at almost every stage of their cancer, in treatment or out of treatment. It's really an important, might also be a fact, some facts here that you're not aware of, which is what we start with is warming up the spine. Not starting with restorative poses, but rather something more on the active side. The spine, which holds up our torso, moves in 5 directions. And in doing this with our students, we also give them something they can take home as being their agent to do for themselves. So I'm going to move the spine in 5 directions, matching each movement with a breath. Now, that's the other key to oncology yoga, is breathing. So with each of these 5 movements, sitting in a chair, I am going to match each movement with a breath. Now, the first movement is what we call spinal elongation. I'm going to use my hands on my thighs. I'm going to press down in my thighs and inhale. And as I inhale, my chest broadens and my whole spine moves slightly taller as I sit upright with all my natural curves in the spine. As I exhale, I'm going to only draw my navel into the front of that spine without losing any of my height. That's movement number 1. Movement number 2, I'm going to follow movement number 1, but I'm going to inhale movement number 1 and lift my arms up to what I call my sweet spot. Sweet spot for others might be here, might even be here, but my sweet spot is up there. Inhaling, and then as I exhale, draw the navel back and hands to your thighs. Next in breath, I'm going to reach my heart forward. And as I exhale, I'm going to round the spine slightly forward. I'm going to repeat those 3 movements. Inhale, elongation. Exhale, hands come down. Next, in breath, a slight back bend as the heart comes forward. The exhale is a slight rounding, forward bend, slight rounding. 3 ways to move the spine. Elongation. Exhale, release. Inhale, slight back bend. Exhale, slight rounding. I'm going to start the next 4th movement, inhaling my arms up. I'm going to exhale one hand down and hold on to the chair. That's really important so I can stabilize my spine. I'm going to inhale again, reaching up towards the ceiling, elongating further, and side bend, whichever side you choose. Inhale, both arms up, elongation. Exhale, the opposite arm down. Elongate again on the in-breath. And exhale, side bending to the opposite side. Inhale, both arms up. And now the fifth movement, I'm going to exhale as I twist one direction, looking over the shoulder, not down at the floor. Inhaling back to center, elongation, and exhaling opposite direction to twist, looking over my shoulder, not down at the floor. Inhale back to center. As I exhale, I'm going to bring my hands down onto my thighs and repeat all 5 directions again. Inhale, slight back bend. Exhale, a rounding. That's the third movement of the spine. I'm going to inhale and lift both arms up. I'm going to exhale and bring one arm down. Inhale, elongate. Exhale, side bend. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, one arm down. Elongate. Exhale, the side bend. Inhale, back to center. Always exhaling when we twist. Always inhaling when we elongate. Exhale again to the opposite side. Inhale back to center. And then bring the arms back down to rest on the thighs for just one moment, because I want to introduce one other thing. We're going to do that same repetition of 5 ways to move the spine, matching perfectly with the breath. But I'm going to add in a little massage. Okay, so starting with hands on the thighs. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to thighs, keeping the spine long. Inhale, look forward, a slight back bend. Exhale, rounding the spine, pulling the navel back. Inhale, both arms up to your sweet spot. This time, I'm going to take either hand. I'm going to exhale and let it lengthen down my elongated arm and bring it right to my heart center. Inhale again. Exhale, I'm going to stroke that arm, bringing it right to the center where my heart is. One more like that. I'm doing here what's called lymph brushing. And it has been, evidence shows it's really effective. I start with the inhale, exhale, lymph brush down to the heart. Inhale, the exhale strokes and the lymph. Inhale, exhale, stroke with the lymph. Now let's complete this loop. Inhale, arms straight up. Exhale, one hand down to the chair. Inhale again, and side bend on the exhale. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, one hand down. Elongate, and then side bending on the exhale. Inhale, both arms up. We always exhale with the movement, with the twist. Inhale, elongate, and exhale brings us to the twist, to the opposite side. Inhale, both arms up, and let them center on your thighs once again. Okay, there's my little demonstration. And what did we do there? And why is this oncology yoga? Let's just discuss that a little bit. Really important is moving the spine in all 5 directions and understanding that the reason we are doing this is because the spine is the highway of everything that nurtures the body. It is the spine through which all of our cardiovascular system follows all parts of the body. The spine is also the center of the nervous system. The spinal cord runs through the spine, giving information to every cell in the body. So these 2 very important functions need to have a healthy spine in order to function correctly. The other thing is that the spine is also the highway to move lymph through the body. It is the lymph system that irrigates and helps our natural immune system to keep our body resistant to future cancers, other cancers, and assists cancer treatments in finding ways to eradicate the existing cancer. So the spine is extraordinarily important. It also, as I described before, is losing functionality in daily life is critical to a cancer patient and survivor. And this very simple movement of the spine in all five, keeping it healthy, allows for increased strength and mobility. And in general, it is a great way. This very simple beginning sequence that we do is a great way to warm up the body and get started to do more larger and more demanding and more rigorous yoga poses. So we want to support this superhighway, the spine. We want to support it and help manage other things, as I described in the warm-up. I was doing the lymph massage. There are many, many ways that we can move lymph in the body, just moving the arm, but we can also do what a lot of our training, we focus on lymph brushing, which is embedded in our methodology, based on evidence and based on having worked with many lymphatic massage specialists. One of the side effects that is really debilitating in a lot of people, and not just breast cancer, it's lymphedema is cancer treatments affect lymphedema, cause lymphedema in many different kinds of cancer. And I hope that I emphasized enough that you see the really tight connection between the movement I did and the breath that I used. What we have studied and learned that breath coordination is really important, and there are ways to move and breathe that are both not effective and also can be somewhat harmful. So we're very emphatic about matching breath and movement the proper way. And so why would we want to do all of these? What is it that a survivor really wants and needs? And as I said earlier, functionality and is really important, but also a survivor needs to know that they can help themselves. And it's important to help them understand why they are doing what they are doing in a yoga class or a yoga session, not just to do it. So what a survivor really needs and wants ultimately is to feel normal again. That's their ultimate goal. And the side effects are an impediment to that goal. And so what we do in oncology yoga is help them understand ways that they can feel better. That starts with understanding what is causing and why they are feeling these particular side effects. And that's the information that we do give in our training programs. I love at this point to put this quote up from Mr. Iyengar, because when I was first developing these programs, I looked to him for some answers and read his life on yoga, not light on yoga, but life on yoga came out, and I was reading through it. There was nothing in the book, in the index or anything on cancer in any of his books. He did not speak to it, but I do think that he grasped what was necessary in order to address cancer. And I use his quote because I think it is very much applied to what we do in our training programs. All of you came probably of interest to this session today from a place of compassion, a place of wanting to help those who we see as suffering. And Mr. Iyengar said, even though you might think you understand that they need relaxation and they do need the comfort and joy that yoga can provide, do not impose your imperfect understanding on those who come to you for help. So let's focus on oncology yoga as a way to provide, not perfect maybe, because it'll never be perfect, but to provide more information to understand how to help those who come to you. So thank you. I hope you might have questions on all of that. And
Well,
Josie's going to lead us into more on how the training programs work.
yeah, thank you, Tari. So Tari gets to do the fun stuff. I do the death by PowerPoint. But hopefully this will kind of helps plug you some of those gaps about what we're talking about. So first of all, what is oncology yoga? You probably have just recently heard that term, because it's only been used over the last 4 or 5 years, largely because the whole concept of oncology care and how do you support someone through survivorship, has only come about in the last 10 to 15 years. But what oncology yoga is really is those survivorship guidelines, and it is a combination of all these things make it. If with one of these does not actually get included in the what the intervention is, then it's not oncology yoga. So one, oncology yoga has to be achieving those movement guidelines. Two, it has to be based on the evidence out there about the impact of yoga and how Tari has a great quote that we use often, is that yoga is as scientific as spiritual. So it's not to put away the spiritual, but to really make sure that we're leaning into the scientific. The third is about cancer's impact. If you do not understand how cancer is impacting the body on a molecular level, and how those treatments are, you are not going to be able to refine your imperfect understanding of someone who comes to you for help. And then that fourth thing is about patient specifics. As Hari already articulated, if someone gets a cancer diagnosis, it does not mean they do not have diabetes anymore, or they're not dealing with heart disease, or they're not dealing with depression, or they're not dealing with an autoimmune disease. These cancer specifics are required to be a safe and effective oncology yoga professional. Um, this is a quick definition of what oncology yoga is. It is a therapeutic evidence-based approach, and it's designed to anyone affected by cancer. It's not individual cancer types. It's not at different stages. It should support people across treatment, recovery, and long-term survivorship. It's very specific to cancer, clearly. Um, we put safety first. Without safety, and efficacy, but safety first is paramount. So a lot of what we talk about is how do you provide a safe and effective practice with either whether that's your words or your interventions or your props or how you're running the program. It's evidence-based, what I've already talked about, and it goes the whole gamut of an individual's journey. Um, we also like this quick quote from Tari is true compassion comes from knowledge and facts. And the reason you're probably here today is to try to identify how do you take that compassion and add in knowledge and facts to have that true compassion. So I'm going to I want to talk about something that we talk a lot in many of our programs early on, because well-meaning teachers come to us all the time, and it's always happens in the first couple of webinars, and they say, Josie, can you give me 5 poses for breast cancer recovery? Or can you give me your top 10 poses for lymphatic massage? Sadly, we want to answer that because we want to help the individual, we want to help the teacher, and we want to help the individual. But what is challenging about oncology yoga is that it is not a one fits all, because there is hundreds of different types of cancers. There's hundreds of different types of protocols, thousands of different types of protocols and treatments. And then you have the underlying patient specifics. That means each individual's experience with a treatment, with a cancer, a treatment, and a protocol might be totally different. And that situation changes on a day-to-day perspective. So one day they might be feeling great and one day they're not. So without that, what we talk about is that oncology yoga cannot be codified. If you it cannot be codified and be safe and effective. So what we actually focus on is about helping individuals build critical thinking. And that enables an individual to develop the ability to adapt and evaluate for each individual person that comes to them for help. And which this is a more challenging program for some because everyone wants their top 10 lists of today's social media, and this does require that people rethink potential paradigms and information that they'd have, and they always analyze and question. It requires them to look into themselves and adapt and evolve. And the program, we use several different types of pedagogical approaches to help individuals achieve that critical thinking. But it is by using quizzes, Socratic method, it is a progressive learning pattern. So you're not going to be able to, in any of our programs, you don't get to jump to the cliff notes at the end. You don't get to see all the poses. We're going to take you step by step, because without that foundation of science, without the foundation of understanding what oncology, what yoga can do and what is safe and ineffective, then it's an unsafe and ineffective practice. Um, so what I wanted to kind of map this out is that there's paths to becoming teaching, and everyone here on this call and everyone that comes past us needs different things at different life. So I can't codify and say this is our recommendation for each individual across the board. I know that because each of you have different capacities and experiences. We have people on this call that are oncologists. We have teachers who are also yoga therapists. We have brand new yoga teachers. Everyone has a different thing. So you have to do the best to evaluate. So what I wanted to do is kind of give a brief recommendation on how, if you really want to teach oncology yoga, how a potential path moving forward. So today's webinar's objective is to give you an overview of what we're talking about, why we're talking about what we're talking about, get to know us and how we teach and what our approaches are. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what the program means. And I'm going to talk through two programs on this today. Is one, the short course that we recommend because it's been a wonderful, lots of our trained teachers take the short course first because they're like, I want to get started immediately. And then they understand. And then they're like, now I want to take the full certification program. Some individuals don't either have the capacity or the understanding, or they don't plan to teach at this point. So they take the short course and that ends their journey. But I wanted to kind of explain, share with you what those paths are. So first of all, the 5-hour short course is 5 hours compared to the 75-hour certificate program. So you can see volume difference in terms of number of hours. It is also designed for a broad mix of professionals. It is not designed 100% for yoga teachers. Our certification is designed for existing yoga teachers who want to go and teach oncology yoga. And then also there's people who have a big cancer survivors who do have a yoga experience are using it, just as a kind of clip note. It is a full online self-study program. It is many people complete it within a day or two. Some others take a fair amount of time. And our whole purpose of this, especially for those people who become certified and want to turn this, is that it pays the cost of you guys taking the program, but you get a nice $50 off to continue your education. So in the end, it's largely a pretty low cost way to get started immediately. It also does give you 5 hours of CEUs, both for Yoga Alliance and IAYT. And we're going to give you, after this, FYI, everyone who registered for the webinar will get you're going to get an email with a lot of this information. So you don't have to be crazy writing stuff down. You're going to get an email with this. And part of that will include a time limited discount to take that program. So if that's interesting for you, you can use a discount and get started immediately. Now, let's talk a little bit about the certificate program. So we've been offering the certificate program for over 20 years. We've trained over 3,000 people. The program went from, I think, 30 hours to now 75 hours. Frankly, programs that are shorter than 75 hours, I don't know how they can do it and create information that is safe and effective. Our 75 hours is still bursting at the seam. One of the things that we always do, which is a bad or is a wonderful or also thing, is that we're always looking to evolve and change. So we've actually this new program. It's based on the same program as that we've been doing for 20 years, but we've added some different elements, and also we have moved to a fully self-study model, which I'll explain why we've done that shortly. So it is an online self-paced study. You that anybody who takes has access to it for 1 year. If you need more time, we're fine. We just control it in that way, just so that from a technology perspective. It includes an extensive 300-page manual, which we're actually working with a researcher and copywriter to look to publish it because we've gotten such great feedback on it. So that is included in that program. We're going to go talk about the curriculum shortly, so I'm not going to touch on all of this. Our plan is to open registration in the next couple of weeks, and then the program will launch, and it will be what's called evergreen, meaning you can register at any point and get started immediately. And that we're targeting a launch of it in September 1st. It might happen before that. We just have some other deadlines of information and projects due, but that's our goal, is to have it, and then it's going to be available, and people start and stop and complete and get certified when you need to. Because I know often historically we were offering the program once a year, which caused people who they have a gap in a time and they come to us and find us and they wanted to participate immediately. We didn't have a program that offered that. I'm going to go into the curriculum and I'm going to drop that into the chat right now as I talk. Hold on. Let's see if I can find it. So the curriculum, which I'll find it later because I can't present and drop. But the curriculum is our goal is to ensure that all those that graduate can provide a safe and effective yoga intervention. So our litmus test for everything we do is to ensure that you have the right information, you have the critical thinking, you have the ability and the structure to achieve it. In the new curriculum, which I will send you a copy, but it's also available on the website for download. And we've added an entire module just to provide support on the practicum development, which I'll explain in a little bit. But this is part of when you download this, you're going to see how we're using various different learning tools to help you drive comprehension. Sorry, why is this not going down? Me. Oh, sorry. Right. So what is the 75-hour program like, or any of our online programs? It is a very dynamic online learning system. You're not going to get DVDs in the mail. You're not going to get a bunch of manuals that you have to read. You do get a manual for read, but it is not an offline things, or it is a very dynamic program where we use videos, quizzes, assignments, different practices, little videos, and then we have you reflect on it. We have longer videos where we replicate interventions or practices. And so it's various different learning tools, and the online system walks you through all of that. And it's a progressive learning pattern. So you have to go step by step through each and every topic and module. Um, as I mentioned, you get an extensive manual. We also rely on Yoga for Cancer, Tari's book that was published over a decade ago and is still regarded as the top book on oncology yoga. We use it. We don't reference it. Many people actually have already read it before they come to the program, so we don't require it. But it is a wonderful reference. If you have not used it, we do encourage you to use it because it gives a lot of more foundation for what we're talking about from a cancer survivor's application perspective. So one program is about teaching oncology yoga. The other is how does someone perform or do oncology yoga and why should they do that? Um, then I wanted to talk a little bit about how do we evaluate whether or not teachers are safe and effective. This is fundamental. People can't go through a self-study program without us evaluating them. So this is probably very unique to other programs that you have potentially looked at or explored online. Because I know currently I'm in several online courses where I have not completed and I've not followed up, and there is no verification of my skills. And this does not work for us and does not work for the cancer patients and survivors we hope to best serve. So we've created a practicum requirement. This practicum is based on a very specific assignment that you only get in Module 6 towards the very end of the program. And every topic and module before that builds you up to that. So we don't give you the assignment first up, because we want you to get those foundation skills. And then what happens is we give you lots of technical support. But basically, the practicum in our wonderful technology-driven world is a short video that does not have to be Steven Spielberg produced, but is, and I just grabbed a copy of one that a person did just submitted. And then what happens is a senior teacher or a mentor will review that and put very specific notes based on your practicum. And then they set up a one-to-one hour session with you to really talk through it. It provides you an opportunity to reflect, adapt, evaluate, and ask any outstanding questions. But this practicum, a successful practicum, is required to complete. So that's just high level. There's a lot more information on the website, which I'll send you. You can have a sample video. I'm actually just about to launch a sample online learning program for you guys, so that if you want to kind of test what the environment's like, that's going to be available soon. Um, but what happens after you get certified? So we want to explore that a little bit, just so that you understand a little bit. The majority of our teachers are utilizing their certification. They're utilizing their certification in various different capacities. They might be teaching in oncology yoga classes in hospitals, clinics, and cancer centers. That has been a significant increase. 10 to 15 years ago, that did not exist. Now, most cancer centers have oncology yoga, and often actually cancer centers and hospitals are paying for their employees or their providers to coming to our training. Um, they're integrating Yoga for Cancers into existing classes. They're giving privates. We have a lot of people who are doing and implementing research at big clinics, which is wonderful because that evidence is going to help us do more and get be covered by insurance and all the things that we want to do. Um, I want to give you an offer. The other thing, this is our teacher directory, and you can find it on things. This is where we have thousands of our teachers who are represented, and it is a very valuable tool. We get about 40 to 100 searches per day, and people are getting jobs, and they're getting references, they're getting clients. So this is a very big benefit. This is only comes out of once you do this we can certify that you are a safe and effective teacher. We also have a fair amount of post-certification resources. So we're just about to launch a monthly live event schedule. I put a draft of that on the landing page, and I'll share that, but I'm still working on it, so I didn't want to fully present it today. These will be for our certified teachers, but if you're in our if you're in our certificate program, you will get access to those, because in our mind, we are starting that journey with you, that you are part of our community. So that's great. But we do lots of research and agent advocacy. We have a big community network. We solve problems together. We have events, and we have marketing toolkits, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so I wanted to explain the other reason that we've changed the program is all about trying to create better access. As we all know, costs of everything have increased. Those costs have increased for us. Also, financing for nonprofits, which we are, has been incredibly challenging in the last couple of years. So we've been crunched on both sides. So we've had to develop and evolve to provide a program, because our goal ultimately is to get as many professionals trained in oncology yogas as possible. But we need to do that effectively, cost effectively. So but we wanted to do that cost effectively to support trainees and to support more people. So our goal was actually to reduce the cost of the 75-hour program. What that means is that we would have to tailor the program and create the program that is more automated, that is more self-study, so that we don't need to pay resources and people to support the program. And so in the winter of this year, we ran a self-study pilot of that. And actually, it was a extraordinary success that within 10 weeks, I knew that that's the way we were going to go, because the comprehension of those individuals was actually outpacing the normal track individuals. And they were delivering excellent practicums and completing quicker, which is another thing. But we also want to recognize there's a wide variety of learners, existing capabilities and understanding of people who come to this program. So we want to give support to individuals that need more support. So what we've created is a self-study based tuition program, which will cost around $14.99, and that's off of $18.99. So it's a $400 discount from the previous program. But then we're going to give add-on products to individuals that need help. So how have people needed help? Some people don't really love the technology side. So we provide support so that they can get more one-to-one. Like, how do I access my profile? How do I develop my practicum? How do I create a video? All of those things are examples of technical support. But then there's often people who, with true compassion and real motivation around this work, who frankly were not best served by their 200-hour or early training program, and they don't know anatomy, and they struggle with some of the elements of the comprehension about the actual methodology. Or there's individuals that really struggle with the actual development of their practicum, or need help with a resubmission of their practicum. These are all individuals that we want to support to make sure that they're safe and effective and they become certified. So we've created an add-on product, so that individuals can choose. It's almost like a choose your own adventure type program, or a low. This is what I was trying to explain it to someone. It's like a high quality, low cost carrier, right? You book your seat, and whether or not you want a meal, or you want early booking, or you want extra baggage is up to you, because we want to ensure that as many people are getting on our airplane and flying to the destination and supporting those individuals as they need. Um, and so the other good thing about this is that it's going to be an evergreen product. So individuals can join when you want, and you can complete when you want. In past years, there's been locks that it's a 6-month program, and that people get through the program and they're waiting for months to get their certification. So we're going to remove those barriers and enable people who are fast learners and need to go through the program quicker. All right, I'm almost done. I actually think I'm done. This all, and why we're having this call with you guys today, is about one thing: our mission. Our mission is that oncology yoga is prescribed and available to all those that touched by cancer. Prescribed means that needs to be credible, it needs to be evidence-based, and it needs to be easily understood by oncologists or yoga therapists or yoga professionals. And then it needs to be accessible. That's the availability to anyone, every cancer at any stage in any country. And part of what we try to do is evaluate everything we do based on this mission. And I think, oh, this is the one last plug for, and again, if you want more information about this and your brain is still trying to figure it all out, we're going to send you all this stuff, but there's awesome resources on our website. One, go and take one of the classes for survivors. There's small little workshop, there's a beginner series, there is a tiny course, a free course on cancer survivors. A lot of that will be repeated about what we talked about today, but it's tailored for cancer patients and survivors. We believe in research is fundamental. Go and read the white paper. It is part of our program. You're going to get an opportunity to read it again, but it is a wonderful document to explain in more detail the why and the how and some of the what of oncology yoga. And then the other is we have a search engine and lots of blog articles. So there's one up there is Oncology Yoga Effective. breast cancer incident rates, why have they changed, or how to create a safe and effective oncology yoga practice. It's a wonderful way to get additional information to kind of figure out what you want to do around this. Um, I'm going to skip over that. Okay. So, what is the next steps? And then we're going to come off and I haven't even looking at the chat because I've been busy talking, and then I'll handle any questions. So this is my recommendation on next steps, or this is your homework is one, I would strongly recommend seeing that the oncology, if you are interested in learning more, take the 5 hour course because not only are you going to get a discount, and I think that discount is $20 off, you are also going to get discount for further certification. It's a great way to learn on our online learning system, and two, get started immediately. So we're going to encourage you to get started immediately with an email that you'll get after this. The certification program will the registration will come will be launching the next couple of weeks. And again, I'm hoping to launch the program to start at least definitely by September, maybe even August. So if you register, you will get going as soon as it gets started. And also, we're going to have an early booking offer for individuals that have been showing ongoing interest in this work. So once you get that email, it'll be a time limited. So make sure you keep that in mind. And then we'll explore. And then I would just recommend that you explore all of the free resources on the website. There's countless opportunity. All right. So I'm going to stop Death by PowerPoint and take a sip of water myself. I hope that wasn't too quick, but I was watching the clock. So let me, whilst you might be coming up and figuring out any questions, and put the questions in the chat, and that would be help me curate them as much as possible. Let me start with one that I got that we already have is someone says, how does someone maintain certification? Are there contact hours? And is there a fee to recertify? Uh, Terrific question. We've always been thinking about this thing. We do not have we are evolving a model for certified teachers, largely so that they do keep up learning. And that is one of the reasons that we're starting these monthly live events for both our trained teachers and our teachers in training so that they can keep up their learning beyond the certification program. The other thing that we've done historically for teachers, which isn't relevant for you guys because you would be joining the new program, is that we give them incredibly good discounts, like at cost, to recertify. Because we have teachers that we've trained over 20 years. The program that we offered 20 years ago is radically different because the science is different than what we do now. And so we want to give our objective is to make sure that all of our existing teachers are safe and effective, as well as the people through. So there isn't a fee. So there's a fee associated with taking those new programs. And there's going to potentially be a small fee, an annual fee, and to take those live classes, just so that we can fund the operation and delivery of those. But those events would be included for 1 year based on post your certification. Um, I'm sorry, I'm going through these. Do you require participants to be Yoga Alliance certified? Great question. This program that we're talking about right now, if your objective is to teach oncology yoga, you need to have some level of certification. Does it need to be Yoga Alliance? No, but we will require you to explain more about your background and experience in teaching. This is largely to set you up for success. This is not a write a check and send it in and get a certification type program. It is challenging, and I don't want to shy around that because the risks of working with this patients, this community requires that we have that level. Does that mean that that a pre-existing training needs to be only Yoga Alliance? No, because we've had people who are terrific who have proven we just might need a little bit more information and details and understanding. And cliff note, you might be the type of person that might need some more mentor support. It's hard for us to evaluate because we don't know everyone's background, but that is our objective. And so that's why this type of more modular program exists. Um, Is this method adaptable to children with cancer, or are you planning to adapt? Absolutely. We have several of our trained teachers that are actually working in pediatrics today. One of the webinars that we actually hosted, I think it was about 2 years ago, was a focus session about how do you adapt it? Because children's anatomy and body is exactly the same. They have different risks, they have different challenges, they have different parameters, and they might be living longer term with some of the side effects. But this method is really is adaptable to all because it starts with the body. It starts with the foundation of the human body, whether you're male, female, whether you have cancer. Because this is the other fun thing I forgot to mention is that everyone is like, oh, we want is this yoga for breast cancer or is this yoga for prostate cancer? And we're like, this is yoga for cancer. Because the reality is we treat the side effects and the symptoms that are associated with the disease. A breast cancer patient might have a lot to common, more in common with the prostate cancer than the actual type of cancer. So that is just a fundamental. That's where we start. So this is very adaptable for pediatrics. Um, is there? I've already handled the yoga teacher certification. Um, Oh, Tari, why don't you answer this one while I read through the other? Um, um, how did you first become interested in teaching yoga for cancer patients?
Oh, well, I think I left out of my introduction that I am a survivor. And as I said, I've been doing trainings for 20 years. But 25 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. And at that time, the availability, uh, there were not integrative services being offered for cancer patients and survivors. My oncologist was not prescribing and suggesting that I do yoga or I stay active. In fact, it was just the opposite. And I realized while I was going through my treatments, it continued my yoga practice, which I had way before I was diagnosed, and found it extraordinarily helpful with all of the side effects that I was experiencing, and also brought that information back to my oncologist and said, you know, who commented, you're managing your blood counts, and all of these are really above our normal expectation. And I said, could it be the yoga? And that was when I started thinking that maybe it was. Looked into it and discovered all of these things about how a yoga practice is as scientific as it is spiritual, and how it was affecting my body. And that's what we bring into the practice. Since then, 25 years ago, there was this this much maybe research being done on yoga for any disease. That has catapulted to there's tons of research being done, and in fact, most of the research that's being funded these days is on yoga, and lots of it on yoga for cancer, how it is being applied, and how it is being used as an intervention, as complementary to medical treatments, and integrating it into the recovery process. So, thank you for asking the question, and I'll end
Oh,
it there.
yeah. We have another question about can is yoga for cancer be taught on and offline? I love this
Mm.
question because it's a terrific, it's a ev- we've all evolved a question. Historically, it was very much in person. And I remember us starting our first online classes before the pandemic. And we got an enormous amount of challenges around doing that, both from a technology perspective, but also individuals. Then the pandemic happened, and it created an entirely different view of how you can access interventions like this in a safe and effective way. Because here's the thing, people, weather can get in the way of people participating, their health, their understanding, their immune system being compromised. There's various different factors that mean online classes can be and a very valuable part of a cancer patient's management plan. I do not believe that it ever can fully replace what happens in a full in-person class. So we quite often have teachers who teach both online and in person. And it could be that one person comes in person one day and then doesn't the next, and does online. So the program itself does teach you because actually the practicum is delivered online. You have to film yourself. So there's a lot of
Learning.
secret, hidden learning of how you do that, i.e., how do I make sure you are safe and effective as my trainee? How do I visually use Zoom to say, hey, Tari, can you please put your foot back? Nope. Watch the curvature of your neck. That could have put some undue pressure on your thoracic spine. And we do work through some of that. It is challenging. I got to admit, for many, many people, and I think we will always work to evolve. And we actually have we work on that with our existing trained teachers, because that comes back to how are we supporting our existing teachers with the 3,000 teachers out there teaching? How do we make sure that they are being safe and effective in the online medium? But the program itself is designed to do both in person and online. It's also designed to be in individual. So I'm going to come to the yoga therapist question, or in a group setting. Someone asked earlier is, do you have to be a certified therapist? This program is quite often, I would say 30% of the people who participate are existing yoga therapists, and the rest are yoga teachers. Because here's the thing, right? What was the percentage of the world's population that will get cancer in their life? 40%. So it is likely if you are a yoga teacher, you are already working with cancer patients and survivors. So we don't want, but if you're a yoga therapist and you're working one-on-one in a clinical therapeutic way, wonderful. This is wonderful application. But both those populations of people who are supporting cancer patients and survivors need to know this information. So I hope that answers that. Um, Let's see. Hi there. I am a full-time trauma-informed yoga teacher at the VA in Atlanta, Georgia, and wanted to get some skills with teaching good. Is this program good for veterans with cancer? I guess my answer to that would be, well, two things. One, well, veterans are humans, so yes. Um, just like pediatrics, veterans have the same anatomy, the same biological issues, the same challenges. Um, Interesting that you mentioned the trauma informed, and because trauma informed, we actually have an entire module, and we work with several other prison yoga project and the veterans project, to talk about what does trauma informed mean for their community along with our community of a cancer patient and survivor. Because you're a veteran dealing with trauma, then you get a cancer diagnosis, that trauma is amplified and also different. So, how do you manage those different traumas? So, we have an entire module that talks about how to manage cancer related trauma, because actually 40% of people who get a diagnosis of cancer suffer from PTSD afterwards. And how do you, as a teacher, as a compassionate, trained teacher, make sure that you're not adding to their pain, right? And again, can't be codified. There is not one solution that will help everyone, but there's things that you develop that critical thinking will be like, maybe I shouldn't do that pose because it could trigger them. Maybe I shouldn't do that pranayama. Maybe I shouldn't use that type of language. So in terms of veterans, absolutely, we have several teachers who've gone through the program who work specifically for veterans. So again, this is for all humans. I have not yet developed a program for cats, dogs, goats, whatever, but maybe that's my next thing. So I decided to put a little humor because I'm being very serious today, and I'm always a little bit comical. So, Tari, I think we've. Is there any other remaining questions, or do you have any other last thoughts? Because we're a few minutes over, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Well, I don't have any last thoughts. I do want to thank everybody again for your interest, and remind everyone that cancer is everywhere in the world, and it's we're all and it's not going to go away. Um, it's really about learning how to live with cancer. Fortunately, that is where the war on cancer has gotten us. That we have wonderful therapies, we have wonderful treatments, um, but we also have a world full of people who are. We have a world full of a lot of people who are already living with cancer. So let's help them live a better life.
Great. So it just says next steps. You're going to get an email. We haven't written it yet, so please give me a little bit of time. But you'll get an email with a lot of the follow-up information around this. And because you participate in this, I will be very clear about some of the discounts that you get associated because we want to honor your guys' participation and engagement in this. So we will be following up with emails. And I do encourage you to use the resources available and join us on this community. And if it's not the right time, don't worry about it. Come back when it is the right time, because we're here and we want our ultimate goal is to help cancer patients live longer, healthier, and happier lives. And we do believe that yoga, well, we've witnessed it for over 20 years, how it can have a meaningful, fact-based impact on the quality of life. So, great. Okay, I think that's everything. I'm not seeing. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Take care. And there will be, if you were late joining, there will be the replay will be available. So don't worry about that. Thank you. And I hope to welcome you into a program soon. Take care, everyone.